Christian and I'm a Libertarian. I have 38 years of federal government experience in the Federal Aviation Administration, where I had an awesome career, challenging and rewarding. I also, prior to joining with the Federal Aviation Agency, had a career on the farm, my dad's farm, and I experienced from when I was 8 years old until I was 22 years old as a farm laborer. And so I learned to appreciate the difference between private sector occupations and government sector occupations. When I approach people, I ask them, what do they think about when you vote? And often I show them my driver's license, and I say, this is a phony driver's license. Why is it phony? Because the U.S. Constitution says, no state shall make anything but gold and silver coin a tender in payment of debt. And both our federal government and our state government are willfully violating that Constitution by accepting fiat money instead of gold and silver coin to pay for our driver's license. They took gold out of the money in 1932, and they took silver out of the money in 1964. And do you know why they took gold and silver out of the money? No. A silver quarter is worth $3 today. A $20 gold piece is worth over $1,200. The government took value out of the money so they could spend money without having it. Right. And when I go to the first year of the Bush administration, he started out spending $1 billion a day more than he took in. And then for the bailouts, he upped it to $2.5 billion per day. And now our current administration is up to $4.6 billion a day more than they take in. They take in 6 in your taxes and your Social Security contributions, etc., and they spend $10.6 billion per day. And this is not sustainable. We cannot continue this way. We need to balance the federal budget. And with a little bit of history, and I'm obviously out of time, in 1812 we had the greatest economy of all time. And in 1812, we had a $600 million trade surplus per year. We also we had a $25 per person federal debt, and the U.S. Treasury grew by $50,000 per day. And later on, when I have my closing minute, I will address the issue of the statistics that are now in existence.
Democrat Marcy Winograd.
I thank you all for coming. I thank the Mar Vista neighbors for organizing this. It's a great pleasure and honor to be here with you tonight. I wanted to share with you who I am. We don't all know each other, why I'm running, and what my platform is all about. I grew up in West Los Angeles. I lived here virtually my whole life. I was born into a family of liberal Democrats. They were very active in world affairs. My parents worked hard to promote détente. They invited Russians into their home to end the Cold War. I grew up with great debate at the dinner table around the Vietnam War. I joined my parents, my brother, in marching to end that war, both in Los Angeles and in San Francisco. That was my initiation into politics. I later became very active in the Democratic Party. I considered myself a leader in the state party. I helped found a progressive caucus of that party to promote single-payer health care, to demand an end to these perpetual wars that are draining our economy, and to point us in a new direction to a sustainable green economy. I ran a headquarters on the west side of Los Angeles in 2004, bringing together 5 Democratic clubs. I later became very involved in the election protection movement. I heard about what happened in 2000 and the voter purge in Florida, and I knew what happened in Ohio, and I wanted to make sure that nobody would steal our vote. I formed a statewide effort called the California Election Protection Network and lobbied very hard against these electronic voting machines, helped get Deborah Bowen elected, and made sure she stayed in office, because that too was a challenge. I've been very active in the anti-war movement, in neighborhood vigils, in organizing a town hall with 1,000 members with Congresswoman Maxine Waters in Inglewood, and in putting our state Democratic Party on record calling for an end to the U.S. military involvement in both Iraq and Afghanistan. On a personal level, I was a journalist for many years, an award-winning journalist. I later went into education when I had my daughter. I've been in education for 15 years, both as an English and history teacher. Also spent 4 years with a nonprofit as a school facilitator, working in this district from West LA to Wilmington, working with teams of teachers, principals, and superintendents on promoting critical thinking in our schools and improving the instruction of reading and writing. I'm very excited to be running for this office. It's my second time out. In 2006, I challenged Jane Harman. With only 3 months, we got almost 40% of the vote on an anti-war, pro-constitutional rights platform. This time, the platform is that we need to transition from a war economy to a new green economy. We are at a critical juncture. I'll talk more about this later when I answer one of the questions. But what I stand for is for sustainability, for peace, and for a better future for our children in our schools. Thank you.
Republican Andrew Sharp.
Hello, I'm Andrew Sharp. I'm running for Congress. I want to thank all of you for coming here. You're the reason I'm running. We have been unheard in Washington for so long now. That's how I felt. I voted all my life, wrote emails, letters at different times. Nothing seemed to change when this new Obamacare that many of you probably support got pushed through with not popular support throughout our country. That is the problem with the Washington establishment right now, these establishment politicians. They're pushing things through without consulting with the people. We all have different opinions on how things should be run, but we all must understand that without accountability in Washington, the system is broke. That is why one of the major reasons why I'm running is to make Washington accountable. One of the first things needs to happen is for the incumbent politicians to lose their seats. If some of them at least don't lose their seats, they will not wake up to the voters' demands for better governments and to be heard. That is very important. If we continue down that path, it's going to be the same old policies going on. They'll have lobbyists sitting in their office all the time, paid for. Do you have a lobbyist there? If you do, great. But if you don't get heard. That is very important. Also, we have this outrageous national debt that is just ballooning. And it is ballooning in a way that is going to continue to pile on with interest payments on our debt to foreign governments, to U.S. bondholders, in such a way so we need to stop that spending. We need to get back money from the auto bailouts, bank bailouts, and all that fund money that we decided to spend out to all these different groups. We need to return that to the federal coffers and not use it for other purposes, use it to pay down the debt. Again, this federal entitlements, when you look at a national health care system for our nation, do we have the same health care needs here as they do in Maine? That should be done state by state so each state can experiment and figure out the best system for their needs. A system that is good and that we like, but if we can't afford it, we can't afford it. Why doesn't any one of you just decide to pay for national health care? Because you can't afford it. If our government can't afford it, no matter how good it is, how can we go on and support it? So voting for me would be vote against the Washington establishment, against status quo with politics. And I hope all of you, since you are here, you will be voting. And I hope you tell your friends and neighbors to get out and vote on June 8th, because it's the future of our republic. Thank you very much.